yet another crazy update from the crazy Russian laboratory. This is, and I don't know if you guys know this, but my original Corsair Dream Machine in the 800D, which is the same case we have here today, is one of my most viewed videos ever. And that was featuring an X58 platform, so that's all old and crappy now, right? So now we have an updated Corsair Dream Machine Elite. This is with Intel's latest X79 platform, so we're using an ASUS P9X79 Pro motherboard. We also have an Intel Core i7-3930K unlocked processor. This will be pre-overclocked, although the final clock speeds are to be determined. We want to make sure that whatever clock speed we validate it in a case with the side panel closed to ensure that our customers are not going to have any issues with their pre-overclocked machine. It also has some other stuff that's fairly new as well. You know what, let's finish up with the outside before we get inside. So you can see it's got a bit of a blue and black overall color schemes other than those two video cards. That's two Radeon HD 7950s. So the reason we went with two 7950s, we went with a 3930K, we went with 16 gigs of RAM, we went the Pro level motherboard. So this is all the highest possible performance, sort of scaled back one notch within reason. So you're not paying that huge premium for getting the Halo parts, like the Extreme Edition, like the Republic of Gamers board, the 7970s, but you're getting that sort of 85% of the performance at, 65% of the price sort of rule that tends to apply to stuff like that. So we've gone with an HX 1050. Yes, the AX is a higher end power supply, but this is also fully capable of powering a machine like this. So it looks great, performs great, but it's going to come in at a price that I don't actually know what the price is going to be yet, but it'll be hopefully less than you'd think. So why don't we just finish up on the outside here. So on the outside, you guys have seen the 800D before. We've got a Blu-ray player, we've got USB 3, so the 800D has been updated to include USB 3 now, although the lighting's very terrible here, so I don't know how good that is. In here, we find some cool stuff. So there's a 3 terabyte storage drive. Hard drives are finally starting to come back down in pricing a little bit, as well as the latest Intel 520 series SandForce SSD. Now this is going to be kind of cool, guys. We're using a different kind of lighting. It's fully customizable lighting with this system. And when I take this off, it's actually going to unplug one of them, so I got to be a little bit careful here. But we are using these cool, there we are, these cool LED strips from BitPhoenix. See here? So there's LEDs spaced out here. You can actually use little adapters to extend them if you want to run longer chains of them. See, just with these 4 little plugs here, that's all you got to do. You can actually cut them at the pre-marked places, so they're marked on the back. So you can do little short ones here if you want to get some extra lighting there. These are really, really cool. These are pretty similar to the Lee & ones that I looked at a little while ago, although they are somewhat cheaper and there's a wider variety. Plus, they have that extension ability, which the Lee & ones did not have. So we've got the cable for that running through here. Other than that, this is a fairly standard Corsair case, except for the upgraded fans. So we're using Spectre Pro LED fans for the that's 3, right? Yeah. For the 3 120mm fans in the top, we've got an H100 cooling the CPU. We have a 140mm Spectre Pro fan here, and then finally we have another 120mm here. And I don't know if they upgraded this one. I suspect they did. No, that's the stock fan. That one's pretty quiet anyway because it has the shroud on it and you can't see it, so it doesn't really contribute anything to the looks. I already mentioned the HX 1050, so you can see the wiring is nice and clean. There's almost nothing even coming out of the power supply, and then we're using the included cable routing options in the 800D in order to make things look as clean as possible inside. Now, this is something that probably a couple people are going to comment on. These 7950s are very close together. The reason for that is that ASUS doesn't include long crossfire bridges with these motherboards. So it's something where if you wanted to source an aftermarket crossfire bridge, you could move it down to the bottom PCI Express 16X slot. Either way, it's not the end of the world, because during gaming, yes, the fans will ramp up. No, they do not overheat. And then when you're idling, these cards produce almost no heat at all anyway. So it's definitely not an issue during just day-to-day usage. So yeah, it's not perfect, but it's a solution that we can live with here in the PC laboratory. I think that pretty much covers it. I mean, we might as well show the overall I/O options available on this motherboard. So we do have Intel Ethernet, which is cool, 4 USB 3.0 ports, eSATA, we have their BIOS flashback feature. BIOS flashback is cool because even though it comes pre-overclocked, if you decide to keep tweaking it, you will, and you run into issues where you corrupt your BIOS, or you update the BIOS and you corrupt it that way, you can actually flash it back just by putting a BIOS file on a USB disk, putting it into the corresponding port. All this info's in your motherboard manual, which you'll receive with your system, and then you can reflash the BIOS just like that. So that's actually really cool as well. Now there was something that I was sure I wanted to mention. Oh yeah, okay, well there's obviously the fact that while this is sort of not quite balls to the walls, 16 gigs instead of 32 gigs of RAM, 7950s instead of 7970s, no Extreme Edition, it can be upgraded. To add all of those parts, and the aesthetics will still be awesome. Last thing I want you guys to see is actually the turned on. You can see the brightness of these LEDs up there, so I think that's cool. Can you see that? Yeah, it's like almost like too bright. Like if I cover here a little bit, maybe, I don't know how to show how bright they are without blinding the camera. So thank you for checking out this PC Laboratory update. The Corsair Dream Machine Elite updated 2012 edition will be coming out soon. Don't forget to subscribe to Linus Tech Tips for more unboxings, reviews, behind the scenes updates here in the lab, and other great stuff like that. Also, this SSD is awesome. I know I haven't done a video about it yet, but it's ballin'.